Many of you have a big question, which is, David, when should I sell Bitcoin? When is the right time to get off the boat? When should I get rid of everything? When should I exchange it for dollars, euros, or some other asset? And here we're going to talk honestly about Bitcoin's perspective, about what Bitcoin is today. First of all, we need to understand that Bitcoin is no longer considered, at least not by those of us who see where all the blockchain and specifically Bitcoin development is heading, especially at the institutional level, looking at what banks, investment funds, and governments are doing. It's not something to be tense or in a rush about, like, come on, I'm going to get out now, I'm going to sell, sitting there with your finger on the trigger ready to hit the sell button. I mean, this is something that if you look at it from a long-term perspective, you shouldn't do if you truly trust the asset. In Bitcoin, in what spot Bitcoin is, right? In what is, real Bitcoin. It's true that I take a lot of advantage of Bitcoin by trading it to make a profit. And I do realize those profits, that is, I use Bitcoin as a vehicle to generate profit, but spot Bitcoin is different. So let's categorize it in two different ways: physical Bitcoin, so to speak, and Bitcoin futures. With Bitcoin futures, you take advantage of price volatility to open and close a position. Yes, we've done that here on the channel. We've seen, for example, how we bought Bitcoin at $17,500, if I remember correctly, or $17,400. You all know this better than I do, since it's in all the videos. And we opened a leveraged loan with $850 and turned $850 into $85,000. In other words, we multiplied our investment by 100 over a period of 1 year and 10 months, $85,000. At that time, we weren't buying physical Bitcoin. We were making a leveraged futures trade in USDT using Bitcoin as the vehicle. That is to say, thanks to Bitcoin, we can take advantage of these margins and generate profit. That profit, of course, we do close it, sell it, execute it, and collect it. But as for Bitcoin itself, what Bitcoin is in spot, I consider it today as something to build wealth, something for the long term, something that I really believe in. If we see it at $100,000, $120,000 or $123,000, as it has reached at the time of this recording, I still think it's cheap if we look further ahead, Looking 5 or 10 years ahead, where we believe Bitcoin could reach, well, $1 million, that really means multiplying what you have today by 10. You could multiply it by 10. That's why I don't get the urge to say, I'm going to sell. When should I sell? That big question we all have. I'm going to sell. Why? Because it's not the time to sell. It's true that if you don't believe in Bitcoin, if you just use it as a speculative vehicle, or your goal is to exit this cycle, then I'd say, hey, look, I would sell Bitcoin just so you get an idea in the range of $180,000 to $200,000, which I think it could reach. Hey, if you don't want to go by price range and prefer to go by timing, then look, I would keep an eye on the last quarter of this year, 2025, which is when the end of the bull run is expected. And around that time frame, well, I would consider making a decision to sell, to say, hey, look, I'm going to sell at 150, 160, 170, whatever it reaches around those dates, which we don't know, or maybe it won't go higher than it already has, right? I mean, you never know. All of that remains to be seen. But if you're a short-term person, someone who doesn't want anything to do with Bitcoin in the long run, who's just taking advantage of the current momentum, I would sell around those dates. The third quarter of the year, if you want an approximate time frame to get an idea, and as for prices, well, you already know that I believe in this cycle it could reach $180,000, $200,000 per Bitcoin. That will be my selling price in CAR, in case I were someone who wants to sell Bitcoin. As I've already told you, my perspective on Bitcoin is to look at it more in the long term, more with the outlook, considering all the fundamentals we have right now, that Bitcoin could reach a price of $1 million. I've also told you many times, whoever owns a Bitcoin owns a treasure. Why? Anyone who has bought Bitcoin this year or last year for under $100,000 has the opportunity, with an amount less than $100,000, to potentially have $1 million in the future. Or who knows, maybe even more, right? In the end, it all depends a bit on how long you're willing to hold that Bitcoin, and above all, that the outlook and the direction the world economy is heading in support it, right? That is to say, for now, we are indeed in a favorable environment where everything suggests that this will keep growing, that this will keep developing, right? For many reasons, Bitcoin is getting bigger and bigger. As of today, Bitcoin is already even bigger than Amazon. That is to say, it has surpassed many of the so-called Magnificent Seven, right? Of the 7 largest and most important companies in the world, Bitcoin has already surpassed many of them. In fact, right now, Bitcoin is literally in the top 5 of the world's most highly capitalized assets. Below gold, obviously, which is number 1, below Apple, below Nvidia, and a little more. I'll tell you, I have it right here. That is, right now, the only things above Bitcoin are gold, Nevada Idea, Microsoft, and Apple. In other words, there is nothing else above Bitcoin. Every other asset in the world is below it. Amazon is already below. The can is already below. Google is already below. Meta from Facebook is also below. Tesla is also below. In other words, it has left many assets behind. Right now, it only has 4 left to surpass. The next one is Apple, which it might end up surpassing as well. If Bitcoin reaches $150,000, it will surpass Apple. Then we have Microsoft. Realistically, if Bitcoin reaches around $170,000, it could surpass both Microsoft and Nvidia. If Bitcoin hits those targets of $180,000 or $200,000 this year, it will also surpass Nvidia. In other words, the only one it can't surpass for now in the short term is gold. This would make Bitcoin the second largest asset in the world by market capitalization, the second strongest and most important asset globally. And people who own gold haven't gotten rid of it in decades. And you're in a hurry to get rid of Bitcoin, which has much more potential than gold, because gold today does protect you against inflation if you hold on to gold. As inflation goes down, gold holds its value, and there's some appreciation due to inflation. Bitcoin not only protects you from inflation today, but it also makes you money. It helps you move up a level. That's why right now people are betting on Bitcoin, because people no longer trust. They don't trust fiat money because you just press a button and print as much money as you want. And the more money you put into circulation, the more it loses its value. That's inflation. The more there is of something, the less it's worth. That is, if there is only one pen in the world, it will have an incalculable value because it's unique in the world. If there are millions of these pens, then it won't have any value, because why would you want something that everyone can have? As it loses its value, its level drops. This happens with anything in life, with a pen, with a car, with a house, with a partner, with anything. The more people have access to something, the less valuable it becomes. That's just reality. The less valuable it is, the more it loses its worth. In the case of Bitcoin, not everyone has access to Bitcoin. Why? Because there are only 21 million Bitcoins, of which only 19 million are in circulation. Out of those 19 million, more than 5 million are lost. Of those more than 5 million that are lost, there's also another million that belongs to Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows who that is, and they've been locked away there for a long time. Then there are 2 million Bitcoins that are distributed among 10 whales, where most of the spot Bitcoin ETFs are held. Satoshi Nakamoto is also one of these whales. Then we have another 2 million Bitcoins that are exposed to supply and demand on the exchanges. And the rest are distributed among regular people, among the smaller holders, not counting the 10 most important whales. But in reality, it's something scarce. There is very little Bitcoin. Not everyone has access to something like this. And on top of that, the price is becoming more and more unattainable for a person to own a whole Bitcoin. Also, taking this into account, calculating that out of those 21 million Bitcoins that can exist in the world, only about half will actually be available. We're talking about not even reaching a fraction of a Bitcoin per person. I mean, if all the billionaires in the world who, for them, buying a Bitcoin right now for $120,000 is nothing, it's pocket change if each of them bought one Bitcoin, there still wouldn't be enough. The vast majority would be left without any Bitcoins. There aren't enough Bitcoins for everyone. So it's a valuable asset, it's a scarce asset. On top of that, it's taking advantage of technology. It's an asset you can use to pay. You can make a transaction with Bitcoin, and it gives you the power and custody. It can't be corrupted. Everything is recorded in a transparent ledger. And above all, you have your private keys, which you can protect in whatever way you see fit. The government can't come and seize it. They can't manipulate it. They can't do anything to you. Imagine you have one Bitcoin and one day it's worth $1 million. And it turns out you're in a country where your government is absolute garbage and is trying to rob you in every possible way. You say, well, I have $1 million in Bitcoin. Of course, I'll just move to another country where I'm treated well, where it's not a damn tax hell. I take it out there, sell it there, and live like a king. I buy a few properties, start a business, open a little hotel, and live the good life. It gives you freedom because you can just remember your 12 or 24 private words from your wallet. You can go to the other side of the world with nothing. And once you're there, you activate a wallet with your private keys and have access to your Bitcoin. So you don't need to call your bank, hey, I need to move this Bitcoin. I need to make a transfer. I depend on a third party. I depend on however much time it takes for someone else to process it. I have to carry it in a briefcase or I have to transport it. No. You can carry Bitcoin in your head. What greater power is there than that? Being able to transport wealth in your mind. Nothing else gives you that, not even gold. That's why Bitcoin is becoming more and more valuable. And whoever owns a Bitcoin has a treasure. And for the long term, it's something that can really give you stability. That's why I say try as much as possible to save up a Bitcoin over time. And if not a whole Bitcoin, then half a Bitcoin or whatever each person can afford. But above all, get that mentality out of your head, the one that says, I want to sell, I want to sell, I want to sell. When is the right time to sell? Is the bull run going to end soon? When should I sell? When should I sell? Why the rush? Use other types of vehicles to make money with Bitcoin. I've shown you how I trade every day, whether it's day trades, slightly longer swing trades, or long-term trades that can take months. You've already seen it. I use free trading bots, the ones from BitGet. We have Ohana Trading Club VIP, our trading club with a professional trader sharing signals every day, analyzing, answering questions, winning trades. In other words, you have plenty of tools to make money using Bitcoin, but you don't need to sell your Bitcoins to make money with Bitcoin. There are more tools to do that, just as I've been telling you. So to the question, David, when would you sell Bitcoin? Well, for now, I wouldn't sell Bitcoin, seeing how the world is evolving, seeing how everything is developing. Me, I'll sell Bitcoin someday in the future. When I say, damn, I think this is coming to an end. Damn, if it reaches $1 million, then we'll sell some Bitcoin and buy a few apartments and we'll make them profitable. We'll rent them out. We'll be a bit more conservative, right? So to speak. That's when I see it. But for now, since you can use other vehicles like futures trading or bots or signals to make money every day using Bitcoin, why would you sell your Bitcoin in spot? Because as soon as you sell it, that's it. As soon as you sell it, it turns into fiat currency. It gets hit by inflation. You pay taxes, and with whatever you have left, and if you quick, you'll invest it in something that might give you some stability. Just imagine you have one Bitcoin. You say, damn, I have a Bitcoin that's worth $100,000. And you sell your Bitcoin in a tax hell. And then this tax hell comes along and says to you, $100,000, give me half, 50,000. And then you say, damn, what just happened here? In a moment, half my money's gone. I'm left with 50,000. And right then you regret it. You say, well, with 50,000, I can start doing something little by little. But hey, wouldn't it have been better for you to hold on a little longer, and instead of cashing out in a tax hell, cash out in a tax haven and have practically the full value of that Bitcoin, and then be able to do whatever you want? That's why you need to look at it from a long-term perspective. That is, in the short term, there are ways to make money with Bitcoin trading operations, whether in spot, futures, with bots, with signals, with whatever you want. Trading operations. At BitGet, we're working all day, every day, making money. But when it comes to spot Bitcoin, I would keep it like a treasure. That is, you take it, store it in a private wallet, and then you take the private wallet seed words and distribute them among your family so that you can access all of those words yourself. In other words, get creative, find the safest way so that not even you have access. Just so you get an idea, for many years now, I've been using a DCA system, buying Bitcoin every Monday. I buy as much Bitcoin as I can each Monday, just a little bit, whatever each person can afford. And I send that Bitcoin to a wallet where not even I have access to it. I send it to a wallet where I can't access the wallet, because that way I don't fall into temptation. I don't fall into the temptation of I'm going to sell Bitcoin. I send it to a wallet that is well protected and in the custody of third parties, where the seed phrases are also distributed among several people, so that none of them has the power either. Together they do, but individually they don't. And that not even I can access. That way I forget. That way I'll never be able to fall into the temptation of saying I'm going to sell Bitcoin, because I can't. I will have to call several people, gather them together, and then figure out whether to sell Bitcoin or not. That's why I'm not tempted to sell Bitcoin. Aside from the long-term perspective, I see where everything is going and how it is evolving. That's why, to the big question you all have, that rush of when should I sell Bitcoin? When should I sell Bitcoin? I'm not going to sell Bitcoin in the coming years unless the situation changes a lot, drastically. But for now, I'm not going to sell Bitcoin. I'm going to close loans. I'm going to close trading operations. I'm going to withdraw liquidity from pools, from liquidity from DeFi. But selling Bitcoin, no. Making money with Bitcoin, yes. Selling Bitcoin, no. Altcoins are a different story. Altcoins, I am going to sell all of them. Most likely, by the end of this bull run, I'll sell everything. At most, as I already mentioned, maybe I'll keep 10% of all my altcoins more as a speculative play, right? Just in case. But I'm going to sell 100% of 90% of all my altcoins. That's more or less my plan. So, well, I don't know if this reasoning about Bitcoin, about when to sell Bitcoin, has been helpful to you. But from here, I'm telling you, I say with total transparency, you already know I'm someone who doesn't have FOMO. I'm not afraid. I don't get emotional. I've been in the market for a long time in cryptocurrencies alone. I've been here for 11 years and even longer in the financial world. And I just don't have those emotions anymore. You're not going to see me like, oh, amazing, Bitcoin at 123,000. No, not like all the videos people are making now. Woo, party, celebration. Just like you haven't seen me say, oh, Bitcoin dropped to 15,500 after coming down from 69,000. Oh my, what a tragedy. Let's cry. You've already seen that I don't do that. I take advantage of opportunities. If I see Bitcoin is cheap, I don't get scared, I buy. If I see Bitcoin is expensive, I close my long positions and that's it. But I don't have emotions. That's why I can clearly give you my opinion with complete neutrality. You know, I don't gain anything from telling you whether you sell your Bitcoin or not. Like, I'm not going to gain anything. Like, oh, some random guy I don't even know and have no idea who the hell you are didn't sell his Bitcoin because of my influence. Oh, how much money have I made because you didn't sell your damn Bitcoin? I don't care. That's why I share my opinion based on what I do myself. And obviously to provide value. I mean, what I say it with the best intentions in the world, because what I do for myself is exactly what I'm telling you, which is what I'm trying to convey to you in this video, right? In other words, I don't gain anything whether you sell or don't sell, whether you buy Bitcoin or don't buy Bitcoin. I'm not going to gain anything. And I'm also not going to gain anything by lying here and telling you, no, I'm not going to sell Bitcoin. And then behind the scenes, yes, I am going to sell Bitcoin. So I'm telling you clearly what I do and my honest opinion about the industry. As someone who has done well in this field and has accumulated experience and years in this world, I try from here to share this in the best way possible for all of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this reasoning has been useful to you. Today, it was simply a line of reasoning. I didn't want to do anything more than get you to think a little, because when there are times like this with FOMO, like now, it's better to keep your feet on the ground, think calmly, and really assess what needs to be done. Don't let yourselves be carried away by emotions. Remember, when it comes to money, keep your heart steady, use your head, and stay cool-minded. So if you found the video useful, share it with that friend who's panicking and desperately trying to sell the little bit of Bitcoin he has so he can get a bit more of a long-term perspective. Let him say, damn, why would I sell my 1,000 euros worth of Bitcoin now just to go on vacation or blow it on boats and hookers? Maybe instead, I'll just keep holding on to it a bit longer, or even accumulate a bit more, or see it as a long-term savings. And maybe in the long run, it could help me out. Who knows? Maybe as a down payment on an apartment, which I could then rent out, it would keep its value and even generate some income for me, for example, right? So that's it, folks. I'll leave you with that. If you found the video helpful, share it with those who need it. Give it a like, subscribe, and most importantly, hit the notification bell. And I'll see you in the next one.